Hey guys, thank you so much for watching this video. I have with me Leanna Crawford, the one and only. She's an awesome friend, alumni from Northwest, and I went there too. And I kind of squeezed my 4-year degree into 6. So, but I got it done though. I got it done. So, So she's a musician, and she's actually traveling right now with Matthew West and Michael W. Smith, and then who else was it?
In Matt Maher and 10th Avenue North.
Yeah.
I will be, yeah.
Yeah, so you are actually, you live in Nashville right now, as far as I understand, and then you're going on tour. Yeah, so you guys, this is a story you want to hear. She's been someone that kind of came to our church a few times and played. And the first time I heard her sing, I'm like, she has such a unique voice. And I think it's just a matter of time. I'm like, you know what? Move over, Adele. I'm joking. I'm joking.
Thank you,
but you really have some amazing music, and I'm really inspired by your story, and I'm looking forward to see what God's gonna do through your life. So tell us a little bit about your show, the road show that you were actually on. So
yeah, so I actually just got off the Christmas road show, which was their first ever one, and that was absolutely incredible. It was so much fun, my first ever Christmas tour.
Yeah.
And then the end of February, I'll start the Spring Roadshow, Roadshow 2019. And that will be, like you said, with Matthew West, Matt Maher, 10th Avenue North, and Michael W. Smith.
And the only place you guys are not visiting is Seattle. So
Yes!
totally fine. We're not like hurt or anything. I'm just saying.
I'm sad about it too. I'm really sad. But we will be in Salem, Oregon. That's close-ish.
Awesome. So how did you kind of get started on this? I mean, obviously you didn't wake up yesterday and you're like, oh, I think I'm going to do this. Obviously it's been a process.
Yes. No, it's been a long process. I think we all, you have your story and your journey, and we all kind of have our how we decided, I didn't necessarily decide to do this. This is always a dream of mine, but I really felt a calling on my life that God, I really felt him saying, this is what I want you to do. But it was kind of a process of, okay, well, this is what I want to do, but how do I do this?
Yeah,
there's not really like A, B, and C. Like, this is how you become a musician and an artist. And so it was something I always loved doing. This is kind of the long version.
That's totally fine. Yeah.
It's something I always loved doing, and I got involved in worship teams in high school.
Yeah.
And I loved doing that, and I wrote my first song at 15. I knew 2 chords on the guitar.
Which song was that?
You've probably never heard it.
Oh,
I can play it for you later. Yes. It's called It's You. And
That's
I played
awesome.
it at a talent show.
Yeah.
And I knew 2 chords on the guitar, like barely. I made this whole song, and it was really cool. It was after do you know Greg Laurie, pastor?
Yeah, I do.
So he came to Seattle and did a harvest festival.
Right,
and
right.
I saw thousands of people go down to rededicate or accept their lives to Christ for the first time. And I was like way up in the balcony with my high school, and it was such a moving experience.
Yeah.
And I just went home and I wrote a song about it. And that was kind of the first time that I was like, wow, this is it's such an incredible thing to write. And that's a lot of songwriting, is writing what you're experiencing. And that's kind of what I started to do. And at 16, I went on a mission trip. And it was my first time going to the country of Haiti.
Yeah.
And it was kind of the first time in my life that I'd really spent quiet time with God. That I really had spent time talking to him and journaling. And I journaled before, but I really spent a lot of quiet time. And that was pretty incredible. And I just felt like at the end of that trip that he was saying, hey, I want you to pursue music, and I want you to pursue music to encourage young girls especially, and to be someone that can encourage them and let them know their worth that they have in me. So it's kind of how I got
It's
started.
not just young girls. I listened to your whole music, all your songs this morning. And I do believe that some of the lyrics you have are so powerful. And the one in the Beautiful You, I think it's called. And I think a lot of times we kind of sort of don't realize the miracle of what it's like to be alive. I think a lot of us don't realize that it's such an amazing experience, right? To be able to wake up every single morning, be able to breathe, And the reason I think that's important is because we need to be thankful, because I think a lot of times we run to sin. We run to a lot of problems in our life because we are not satisfied in our relationship with the Lord. You see what I'm saying? So this is one thing that I think is so important for us to do is to really appreciate the fact that we're alive. And I think, and the beautiful in your lyrics, I don't remember exactly the lyrics, but I felt very beautiful. I felt really inspired that I'm like, hey, this is important for us to talk about. So thank you so much for your work and what you do. So what are some other things that inspire you? What are some people that maybe you wish to collaborate with? I mean, you're only like working right now with some of the top artists in the Christian music world. Yes. So who do you kind of look up to, and people that you really enjoy listening to, or inspire you?
I mean, there's a lot to choose from. Just in the Christian music world alone, I think someone that's brilliant and kind of ahead of his time. I know I've had conversations with different artists, and it's Toby Mac is a huge one. That actually, it was funny. I was talking with Matthew West, and he was saying he's ahead of his time in like music, and what he does is so. It's kind of just beyond, which is so cool. So, I mean, that'd be really cool to collaborate with him. I've gotten to do songs with Matthew West, actually, which has been totally crazy and so cool. And I write a lot with him, which has just been incredible. But we actually just did a Christmas song together. And I put out 2 Christmas songs, and we wrote an original, and then we collaborated on Angels We Have Heard on High together. And that was so cool. And then 2 years ago, I guess now, I was on his Christmas album, and I got to do Silent Night with him, which was it was a really cool version of Silent Night, really beautiful. And so that's been really cool. And I'd love to collaborate with anyone and everyone.
I think everyone that is in the Christian music industry, every single time you write a song, you are changing the music, the Christian music. So my question would be, what do you think is wrong with Christian music? I know it sounds so wrong.
Harsh question.
It is, but I think a lot of times we get so complacent in the things that that were written before, and I'm like, some of the secular songs are so good. Why? Because I feel like at times they put so much more heart into it, and so my kind of like opinion of the Christian music is that a lot of times we just either don't have the variety, and we don't have a lot of new voices coming in or new music coming in. I think we need more of that, more lyrics that are very inspiring. It amazes me where you have some artists that have some lyrics that are very crass and they're very like out there, and somehow they have millions of hits, and it's like, why can't we have that for things that are amazing, things that we have such powerful message in ourselves? And why doesn't everything that we do, why don't we do everything that we do in light of eternity, right? Or praising God with all that we have? I think God deserves our best, right? So in your opinion, what do you think should change about the Christian music industry?
Yeah, that is a great question. I mean, I think there's always stuff that can be better, and like you said, it's not to trash on it.
Yeah, absolutely.
Industry. And I think too, just I think I've been able to meet several Christian artists, and to see their hearts firsthand and to see what their ministry does is pretty mind blowing. Yeah. And I know that's totally what you're saying. It's like they to hear more of that though. Yeah. And it's there are some up and coming artists coming up. There's Hannah Kerr is one. She's awesome. The Young Escape. I don't know if you've heard any of their music. There's some, and I totally agree. There should be more. I think, kind of coming off of what you said, what my goal as a new artist and up and coming, my goal when I write music is to write authentic music and to write from my heart. And I think that's the challenge of any industry. But it's kind of like, okay, am I writing this because I think people will like it? Yeah. Or am I writing this because this is really my heart? And I think there's kind of a balance and a line of I think that would be what could change in the Christian industry is just authenticity. But I think that's something that I'm trying to do personally is okay, how do I make this more personal and more authentic? And then God is known so much more. Cause I agree with you. These in pop music, and there's so many artists that really write from their heart, and the music isn't necessarily something that I want to share with my church, obviously. But it's but it is this, it's, you can hear their hearts in it, and I think that would be the goal, to continue. And I think it's starting to in Christian music. Yeah. But I think just meeting so many incredible artists, just being able to see their heart and their ministry firsthand, it's like, wow, you're doing some incredible things, and I hope to, follow their lead, and I hope to just continue to be even more authentic. And
it's so weird because both of us were part of this kind of like period where we're named millennials, and I think a lot of times, a lot of pastors and a lot of people think that what we need more is the cool stuff, the lights and the fog and like. Yeah. And most millennials are like, nah, we don't want that. We want people that are authentic, people that are real, and if you're preaching and if you're giving us, your version of faith, we want to see the authentic you, not some version of someone that you heard on TV. I think that's so important. I think it was C.S. Lewis who said this, that if you want to be a Christian shoemaker, don't put crosses on your little like shoemaker shop. No, build the best shoes that you can possibly build. You know what I mean? Like, and people will look at that and glorify God because of the work that you do, not like, oh, look at me, I put a bumper sticker that says that I'm a Christian. And I think a lot of times, even in Christian music, we have this idea that it has to have the sticker. But I think what we need to do more is to really explore the art and convey our true feelings and our true heart. And naturally, if our heart is changed, just like the secular artists, if their heart is into really weird stuff, it comes out in their music, right? Like, I think if in the Christian worldview, if you have a heart that's been changed, that will come out in your music, and I think that's kind of like, I hope that we have more of that, All right, so we talked about things that inspire you. Let me ask you a question that can be kind of hard to answer. What are some mistakes that you've made along the way? Things that you wish you would have done differently?
That's a great question. Always fun to look back on that. I think the biggest mistakes that I've made have been when I've given into fear, and that's kind of it's broad, but then it's not. It's like very specific to my story. I think the times that I've given into fear, I've regretted not doing something because I was either afraid of what people thought of me or afraid that I wasn't good enough, and whatever the outcome of that was, it was that I didn't step into what God's plan was at that moment. Yeah. And so I think that would be definitely something. Looking back, there are times that I wish that I would have stepped into his plan, or stepped into this, or done this show, or sung the song, or whatever it was. I think that would be some of the. I wish that I hadn't, given into fear at those moments.
Gotcha. So, with that said, what would some advice you would give yourself if let's say you had a chance? I don't know. I don't think we can. We don't have a time travel machine, but like,
I wish.
I know. What are some advice that you'd give yourself at 16? I'm pretty sure there's some young girls are watching, and you as an up and coming artist, you are, no matter if you want to or not, you are placed in a position where you will influence people. And I think all of us influence people, but in which direction are we influencing them, right? So what would be some advice you'd give yourself or someone that's watching that's 16 years old, what would you say?
Man, if I had a time machine, but I think to give myself at 16, and for anyone watching this, no matter how old you are, but especially if you're 16 or younger or older, I think something I wish I would have told myself more was not to worry what others thought of me. And that kind of goes through all of life, but I think that's that's a huge thing in some of my songs. I talk about Crazy Beautiful You, like knowing your worth in Christ, and then being a work in progress is another one of my songs. And that's just, I'm a work in progress, but I think the more you worry less about what people think, the more freedom you're going to feel in Christ, because you're like, well, it's not up to them, it's up to him.
Yeah, ultimately. Absolutely. So with that said, I always try to ask everyone this question because I feel like the life message that I have is I'm trying to get people to live in light of eternity.
Love that.
So what would be a practical thing that you do? Obviously, what you do in music is you are trying to do that, but what are some practical things that you do that, helps you live in light of eternity?
Yeah. I think the biggest thing for me is devotionals. And that's kind of been my goal of 2019, is to make it a morning habit. And so I can't live my day without it.
Yeah.
That's a huge thing for me. I struggle with just like praying when I'm by myself, praying in my head. I get really distracted. And so I have to journal. Like I have to write it down. Like I have to write prayers down. And
just to work through it.
Just to work through it. Or else I like get distracted if I'm just thinking. I'm like, oh, I'm thinking about this. I need to do this. And so I have to write it down. And that's been something huge for me. It might take longer a little bit to journal my prayers or my thoughts.
Right.
But that's when I really feel like I'm when I'm having a conversation with God, I'm like, hey, like, Father, these are the things that are going on, and these are the people I want to pray for, whatever. It's journaling. And like when I take the time to do that, that's like a practical way that I am like living in light of eternity, because then my day is going to be better, because I'm like, okay, I started it with Jesus and I'm going to continue it with him.
Yeah, come on.
I did that every day.
I think it was Martin Luther that said that, like, I have so many things to do today that I have to spend the first 3 hours in prayer. Otherwise, I won't get through it.
Yes.
So
I love that.
I think that's what we have to do, because I'm like, man, I really need your grace today,
Oh, amen.
So another question that I had of you is, if you look at your life, what do you hope that, obviously when you write music, your life experiences are put into your lyrics. What do you hope people would experience through your music?
I mean, I think my biggest hope is that they would hear less of me and more of him, less of me and more of Jesus. And that's not to be like, oh, the Christianese answer. Like I hope that's like the biggest part of it. Right. And I think my main message for not just young girls, but for everybody is knowing your worth in Christ, and knowing that you're uniquely made and you're made for a purpose, and that you are perfectly made. You're imperfect, but you're made by a perfect God. Yeah. And that your story is yet to be written. And that's a huge part of my message, that your value is in him. And then another one of my songs is called Fragile Heart. And it's just the message of the hope that we have is in Christ, and that if you walk through something painful, because we're all going to walk through painful things, experiences, and you've probably had your fair share. I've had there's going to be more.
Yeah, absolutely.
And I think that's the only place we have hope is in the healing hands of Jesus. So those are kind of the main messages I hope people walk away from. I hope people just know more of what God says about them.
Yeah, it's interesting, because in my own experience, I can say that one of the greatest tension that you experience as someone who, for example, I'm a pastor, and I don't have a national stage like you, but what I do have is when I preach at church, right? And when you're placed on a stage, automatically you become someone that people either like to put on a pedestal or they try to really criticize. It's one of those extremes, right? And one thing that I always try to do is not to give into the praise or the criticism of the people, right? Like, because that, I feel like that's a lot of times can be very, very toxic. I mean, think of even Jesus, right? Like one day they're screaming his name, saying that, welcome him in Jerusalem. Next week they're crucifying him. You're like, what happened? That was quick, So the biggest thing is not to give into the kind of like the mob. I don't want to call it a mob, but a lot of times it could be a mob mentality, right? Like where, so how do you navigate a tension between, understanding that you are a vessel that God is, partnering up with, and he's using for his glory and giving him glory. Because it's tough not to, when somebody criticizes you and that they're taking things out of context. It's really hard not to be disheartened. At the same time, it's also really hard to not allow your successes, or I think Timothy Keller says this, not allowing your successes to go to your head or your failures to go to your heart. So how do you try to navigate those?
Great. You have so many great questions.
Thank you.
And first, I
thought about that.
Hey, that's good. Using your head. I love that. Yeah. I just like to say first, I know that as a pastor, I think pastors get more criticism than probably anybody else in the Christian world. I think you guys get a lot of criticism from your congregation, from everybody, and you're looked at as such a higher standard. And artists are too, but I think there's something different, and there's a lot of power in what you're saying. And I'd just like to say, I think, and you say you don't accept praise, or you don't, listen to, but I think like you, every time I've been to your church, I just feel so welcome. And
thank you.
My parents love coming, and my friends have come, and they just feel so welcome in your community. And so you have created, and really you can tell how much you love the Lord and how much you want to make his name known. So I just want to say that first.
Thank you.
But I do love getting to visit your church and seeing your community. It's been awesome. I think the tension there is definitely, it's something that I think having people to keep you accountable, I think, is huge. And
That's
I have
huge,
I'm so thankful to have a very supportive family that checks in on me.
Yeah.
And I live with my sister, my best friend, who's like, okay, are you is this about you or is this about God?
Come on.
And I think now it's even harder because I love the artist John Bellion. I don't know if you listen.
I don't know.
He's more of a pop artist. I believe he is a Christian, but he has some explicit words. But one of his songs, he just put out an album. He's like oh dang it, I'm gonna forget this. But it's something everything changed the day we all became famous. And the line, I think what he's trying to say is, when we got social media, everything changed. And like, we all became famous because we can all put our lives on Instagram. It's our own personal tabloid, in a way.
Curated.
It's whatever. And I think that's such a powerful thing. Like, oh my goodness, how cool that we can connect with people and we can share our hearts on this platform. But then it's also can be this kind of dangerous thing where social media, in reality, it is kind of all about us. And not it's not a bad thing, because I think we can use that to make his name known. But I think that's been a huge thing. Okay, like, what is the point of me having an Instagram? Is it so I can get how many likes? Is it so I can get, did I get this many likes or whatever it is? Or is it, no, did I really, like, did I honor God in that? Or was this an honoring picture? Was this an honoring post? And I think the more that I pursue, okay, am I doing this for God? There's so much less pressure for me to be perfect.
Wow.
Because I think it's like, there's this, there is a lot of pressure if you're whatever
absolutely,
you're, and a lot of that pressure is created by myself. I'm like, is this going to be okay? And it's like, well, is it honoring to God? And really, it's not about me. It's like, it's not, it's about him. And there's so much less pressure and so much freedom in that. And so I think the more that I remember that, it's like, okay, there's so much freedom, and not that I'm perfect. This is something I like struggle with, and I'm working on, which is why I can say that. Like, the more that I remember, there's so much more freedom.
It's interesting that you mentioned that, because I feel exactly the same, where someone will ask me, like, how do you still preach when you have, like, faults, right? Like, and then they're not trying to, like, make fun of me or anything like that, but they're saying, like, how do you do that? Because that's the point of the insecurity. And I usually say, like, well, when I go up there to preach, I don't say, like, hey, look at me. If you can just follow my example, I'm the greatest thing ever, you'd be perfect too, That's not what I'm saying. What I'm saying is, every single time I preach, I say, here's the spotlight, it belongs on Christ. And I make I'm like, I'm not preaching myself up there, I'm preaching him. And as long as I keep the spotlight on him and not on me, I don't have to live up to the standard and the pressure. Now, of course, like, I'm striving to,
right?
But I always fall short of that, and that's one thing that kind of how I navigate. But it's a difficult tension for sure, especially when it comes to artists or somebody in any kind of public platform. So, one more thing I wanted to ask you is, if you know someone that maybe is trying to get into the same industry you're trying to get into, I think it would be good maybe to give them advice on, like, what would be some of the most difficult and difficulties, challenges of the platform, right? Because, I mean, your platform is producing, music and writing lyrics and going on tour, what are some difficulties they've encountered and things that you wish you would have known if you were just starting out?
I think if the one of the biggest things that for me is just talking about social media and all that is comparison and the man, that can be such a difficult thing to we all do it, right?
Yeah.
Like guys and girls.
I don't mean to interrupt you, but like
No.
I think a lot of times we take our lowlights and compare them to people's highlights because that's what we see in social media, right? People don't put their lowlights, right? Yes. And then when we do that, it's like no wonder we're all going around like, oh, my life doesn't measure up. But how about Jesus? That's our standard. You know what I mean? Like, so.
Oh my goodness, yeah. I think that would be a huge thing is to find if you want to be an artist, if you want to be a songwriter or whatever you want to pursue. Do that to the best of your ability. And that's my goal is to be the best songwriter can be, to be the best vocalist, to be the best musician. And that doesn't have to be yours. If you're the best videographer, if you're the best speaker or pastor, or if you are the best, if you're going to like be the best garbage man and take everybody's garbage, like be the best. Like, okay, this is the funniest thing ever, but in Nashville, this is totally random, but our garbage people, I don't know the correct name for them. They are the nicest people I've ever met. Because we're sometimes like, I live with 4 other girls. So there's 5 of us in an apartment, but every Thursday they come and pick up our garbage, and I've been late and I like hear them outside. And so I run out and they like always wave at me. And then for Christmas, they like left every townhome like a little card. And like, it was just saying Merry Christmas. But that's like, okay, can you do that in whatever you do? Can you do a little bit more and be the best at whatever you're doing, whatever your vocation is, whatever you decide to do. But that was kind of I went on a rabbit trail. But I think if you're pursuing, if you want to get into the music industry, I would say pursue your craft, get really good at it, and listen to all kinds of music. That was some of the best advice I got from Matthew West, actually. He said listen to all kinds of music and listen to the new stuff and the old stuff, and listen to what's coming out, listen to what people are doing, and find who your favorite people are, and just really pursue, like if you want to get into music, know the ins and outs, know everything about music. And that's what I'm working on too. I think one big thing that I would also encourage you guys to make sure you understand that your life's not going to be judged on your momentary successes, but it's going to be on the faithfulness of your day-to-day life, how you lived. Amen.
And I think a lot of times we kind of lose sight of that, and we think of like we need to have the big wins, when really the biggest win of our life is the daily faithfulness, the daily perseverance, right? Like the daily thing that we do like that, right? Like going around and being more kind than necessary, because everyone that you meet, that line that like everyone that you meet is going through some kind of battle. So Leanna, I really thank you for being on here, and I think it's really inspirational talking to you, and I'm looking forward to what God is going to do in your life.
Thank you.
And I'm really said that one day I'm going to see you on like every other show. But I think we need people that have a heart that's been changed to change the conversation. I think one of the best lines that I heard about culture is that, I don't know who wrote this, so someone online, you guys can go find it, but they said, I don't have to change a nation's laws, I have to change their poets. Right? So if you can just change the conversation, if you can just change the poets and the lyrics of the songs, because if you think about it, a lot of our Christianity comes from our lyrics, and I'm sorry to say, but a lot of times, right? And it worked back in the day where people were very into the Bible and they wrote hymns and they wrote powerful lyrics. But now it's like a lot of people's lives are changed by lyrics that are not very godly. And they talk about suicide, but and all these things that they're not life-giving. So I look forward to artists like you who have a life-giving message, and that's what I'm looking forward to. So thank you so much. Anything else you wanna share with us? I know you're gonna play something for us, and I'm gonna make sure that it's included. But anything else do you want to say to us that
I mean, just thank you so much for having me.
By the way, where can they find your music?
Oh,
yeah. So
you can find my music. I have an EP out called Crazy Beautiful You, and you can find it on, I think, most all music platforms: Spotify, iTunes, Amazon Music. I have some Christmas songs that were just out, but Christmas season is over.
you have a YouTube channel, right?
I do. Yes, Leanna Crawford Music, and my social media platforms are Leanna Crawford Music, so you can find me on there.
So like Instagram, everything like that.
Yeah.
So absolutely, I'll try to link a lot of her stuff in the description below. So just look into it. I'm not sure if it's gonna work on podcast, but on YouTube for sure.
Thank you.
So we'll go from there.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you so much, guys, for watching this video. I would love if you guys can keep the conversation going. If Leanna has inspired you, would you reach out to her, write her a message, where you can post a comment below on this video, or if you're listening on podcast, make sure that you reach out to Leanna, see what her music is about, and I really, really encourage you to get to know her. This is someone that I really believe that one day you will change the conversation of this nation. And I know that that's a huge statement. I get that. But going along with the line that I said before, that we have to change, the poets to make sure that we change a nation. I think that's what we need to start. Not demanding laws and all that, but I think it's more about, hey, can we come from a place of understanding and give people hope? And I think people appreciate that. So thank you.
Thank you so much for having me. It's been so fun. Thank you.
Awesome.
It ain't easy to put imperfect on a page, and bet there's things I need to change. To say what I'm about to say, I got issues I'm anything but figured out. Oh, I feel much better now that I just said those words out loud. I'm a work in progress. I'm not quite there. Yeah, a little rough around the edges. Yeah, it's true. A long way from perfect. As long as he's still working, I'm a work in progress. So don't give up on me yet. This world don't need another hide the messes highlight reel. I'd rather be a mess if it means I'm real. You gotta see the broken to see the God who is. I'm a work in progress. I'm not quite there. Yeah, a little rough around the edges. Yeah, it's true. A long way from perfect. As long as he's still working, I'm a work in progress. So don't give up on me yet. No, 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 don't give up on me yet. Yeah, yeah, no, yeah, oh, I'm a work in progress, yeah. I'm not quite there yet, but it's okay. I'm a work in progress. I'm not quite there, yeah. A little rough around the edges, yeah, it's true. A long